Picture this, you've had the kids at you all day. It's been a bit of a stressful one. And what do you naturally turn to? Is it the cupboard, the fridge? Have you ordered to take away? This is a prime example of stress eating, but this podcast is going to teach you how to overcome it. Welcome to our podcast, Fuck the Diet Cycle, with myself, Loren and Abby Lodge. This is for you if you want to cut through the diet industry bullshit and finally end that cycle. Grab yourself a cuppa, get comfy, and let's dive straight in, shall we?
Yeah, I think stress eating is such a common one, but it's also, I find, one of the main reasons why people put off a weight loss journey is because they're under stress and they can't possibly, think or focus. But in reality, it's one of the reasons why you do need to start your weight loss journey. You do need to learn to take back that control so that you can obviously do the things that you want to do and lower your stress levels. 9 times out of 10, if you are a really, really stressed out person, it is somewhat down to your weight as well. I mean, I'm quite stressed out at the moment, but that's because I'm living in a caravan. However, I now don't stress eat, but to be able to overcome the stress eating, there are a few things that you need to be aware of and kind of be switched on to be able to overcome it. So one of the first ones that I will say is recognizing your triggers. What are your triggers for your stress? And no, you can't say kids or husband. Yes, they are a trigger. I do get it. However, you do live with them and you have had them and you can't get away from them, unfortunately. But there are things. What?
But you say that, and no, we can't get away from them unless we're going to go and run a mile, but we're not.
You can't shut them in a cupboard either, Loren.
Oh, I was going to be Miss Trunchbull for a minute. No, but they are a trigger. So understanding that you do have to live with these people is
Yes.
exactly why I lock myself in the bathroom. I just wanted to add that in there.
Yes, they are a trigger, but so some triggers are quite easy to kind of avoid or get away from, but kids, husband, family life, you can't always get away from it. So that's why it's so important that you recognize these triggers and you start to put things into place so that when you can feel that stress bubbling up, when your kids are driving you up the wall, when your husband's asking where his other sock is that he had 3 weeks to go, and because the other one went through the wash and whatever, that you can deal with it without going, fuck this, I'm ordering a takeaway. So what would you say for you, Loren, is apart from drowning yourself in the bath, a stress managing technique for you?
I think being aware of my own mood. So I know that obviously around time of the month, I am a lot more irritated by things that I would normally tolerate. And I can feel it in myself. Like, even down to, like, I hate hearing people eat.
Oh,
Like, it just drives me up the bend, but I can tolerate it normally. Time of the month, I'm not joking, I could ram someone's fork up their ass. Like, it gets so bad that I can feel it. My skin feels like it gets tight. Like, I can feel, I don't know, I feel like I'm being possessed. I sound scary, but I can
you look
feel
like you're
it.
being possessed.
Yeah. I can feel it in myself that I'm getting agitated. My heart beats faster. I'm tense. My muscles hurt. I've got a headache. Like, I know that I need to walk away from the situation. Previously, before my weight loss journey, I would have told myself that the only way to relax would have been to go and have chocolate. Now, there is some scientific link there that my cortisol levels would have been rising. The chocolate gives me a happy hormone, but for a temporary period. And the come down from that would have led me to binge. So therefore, whilst there's a tiny scientific link there, it's not enough to turn to chocolate. What I needed to realize was that when I'm feeling that way, I needed something that would make me feel good about myself. I needed something that was going to relax me. And I needed something that then didn't turn into self-guilt, feeling, fuck, I've messed up again. I may as well continue now. So that's where the bath came into play. because it was my way of de-stressing. It was my way of saying, do not come in this bathroom for the next hour.
I'm going to combust.
Yeah, you're banned. Come over that threshold of the doorway. I'm telling you now, you're not going to like my behavior. But see, for me, that worked. I know for you, obviously, you turned to hoovering and stuff. Like you was an angry hooverer so much that you broke your hoover. But it's understanding what that looks like. How do you feel in yourself? Not just necessarily the main event, but how does that make you feel? And what's going to genuinely calm that down? And it wasn't always the bath. Having different techniques is also important, and seeing what that looks like for you. So colouring in a swear word book for me was brilliant. Loved it.
Lego for me was brilliant.
Lego for you. Some people like to go out for a run. For me, that would make me more stressed, but other people, it de-stresses them. Listening to a funny podcast or our podcast, shoving on Netflix, going to the gym, cleaning, like Mrs. Hinch, come on.
Yeah.
She de-stresses by cleaning. That's her thing.
Yeah.
Find your thing that rewards you rather than hinders you, because there's a difference between self-care and self-harm.
Yeah. And also looking for those other alternatives as well. So you said there, time of the month, naturally, you know, we do want to reach for chocolate, carby stuff, salty stuff, you know, anything that wouldn't normally be within your daily normal eating regime. But actually being prepared for, you know, almost preempting something like, let's use time of the month, preempting, you know, when it's going to be roughly. You know that you're probably going to be more hungry, you're going to be more stressed, you're going to be more angry, anxious, and just, you know, likely to combust at any point. Being prepared and having stuff in your house as an alternative, you know, if you know that it is a trigger that you can have. So if you are a chocolate lover, you know, there aren't many alternatives to chocolate, let's face it, but having something sweeter that is going to kind of maybe satisfy that sweeter tooth that you may have, or, you know, whatever, so that it
You're right there, frog in your throat.
So that it's not constant excuse, you know, and you're not going to feel guilty if you was to have an alternative to the chocolate. So having stuff, you know, it might be, I know for me, I used to, when I started maintenance, just randomly chop up like cucumber and stuff, because that just worked for me. I just wanted to have, if I felt like I could feel my hands wandering or whatever, I would just have some cucumber, and then that would satisfy me and I'd be absolutely fine. I mean, you don't have to snack on cucumber sticks. That is a bit weird. But for me, that worked.
But sometimes you say about cucumber, if you looked at that a little bit deeper, it's the crunch. Like a lot of people are going for texture, and they don't really think about that. It's not necessarily the flavor or the thing.
No,
it's the crunch, it's the chewing, it's the sensation that you're searching for. Again, we talk about it all the time. Listen to your body. Start journaling what this looks like and being in touch with what's going on, because you'll realize it's not the crisps that you actually want. It's just something to crunch on. It might be a celery stick with some cottage cheese or low-fat spread. Or, no, I don't like it either, but some people do.
Jesus.
Apple slices with peanut butter.
Apple, peanut butter, yeah.
Things like that are alternatives that are giving you that crunch as well as really good flavors. Mindful eating is another one that you want to be aware of when you're stressed. We can go into picking and I need this and I need that, and you're just eating for the sake of it. You're not tasting it. You're not enjoying it as much as you're telling yourself that you are. You're not, because it's just you're trying to mask your emotion, and we are so good at not dealing with the emotion and using food to mask it. So instead, you need to start taking a moment to go, do you know what? I feel shit. I feel stressed. This has happened. I don't really like the situation. This is how I'm going to resolve it. And really putting yourself in that moment. And as much as that feels uncomfortable, the more you get used to doing it, the more you realize how much you used food to cope with it.
And it's also about understanding that it's okay to feel stressed.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, your life might not be as stressful. You might know somebody who's in a really, really rubbish situation right now. And it's almost like we have been conditioned into you can't be as stressed as that person because they're much worse off than you or whatever. It's still okay for you to feel stressed, and it's still okay for you to feel angry and anxious and all these things. We don't need to put a plaster over those emotions. Feel them. How do they feel in your body? Is your jaw really tense? I don't know for you. For me, my first thing that I can feel, only since I've tuned into my body, when I can feel like anger or frustration, is my jaw. And then James even notices it on me now, and he's like, "Will you stop doing that with your jaw?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And it's not until you're like, I almost have to like unpick my jaw because I clench it so much. It's like, oh yeah, okay. But again, I've tuned into my body that I'm like, yeah, I can feel it in my jaw. And then it's not like an instant stress relief, but actually unclenching my jaw, I'm like, oh, okay, I can breathe properly now. Like, that's amazing. But you have to tune into how it feels in your body. Is it in your stomach? A lot of people get like anxiously stressful butterfly feeling, don't they? And that's what they're trying to like avoid. No, feel it. What does it feel like? And you have to switch on to these things so that you can deal with them in a better way than head into the fridge, head into the cupboard, nose diving into the cookie jar, whatever you're going to be. And this isn't going to say solve all your problems and you're never ever going to not stress eat again or anything. We're human. We are human, and we need to accept that sometimes humans fuck up. In fact, quite a lot of time humans make error. If you look at our government for one, that's another story. But again, acknowledging you are human and it is okay again to make mistakes, but then not using that as an excuse of I can make mistakes all the time. There is a difference between a genuine like, oh, I fucked it this time, or that was an excuse. So distinguishing them two as well is really, really important.
Yeah, and looking at long term, and by long term, I don't mean years, I'm talking about long term across the next couple of days. You're not going to be stressed for the rest of your life. Like, stress is temporary for most people. Stress is something that's happened in that moment, it's pissed you off, you're feeling overwhelmed by it, and you're stressed by that situation. That might last a couple of days, it might only last a couple of hours. So therefore, if you learn how to deal with that stress without turning to the cupboards, imagine how good you're going to feel once that stress has passed and now you don't have another negative emotion to deal with. Flip that with, okay, I was stressed for a few hours. That led me to binge. I've now got to deal with the fact that I'm going to gain weight that week. That's going to fuck me off. I'm now going to think, what's the point? And I'm going to continue. 2 weeks later, I'm still dealing with the fact that I gained weight because of that moment of stress that was over and done with 15 minutes. Yeah. You've got to start realizing the consequence of turning to the cupboard when you're stress eating, because that's long-term damage. Stress can be dealt with so much better that doesn't have to impact you as self-sabotage. So something that I did a lot in the beginning stages of my journey, because I was still working and in that shitty environment, do you know how I got through it, right? Because I was stressed every day at work. I would turn around and flip it on my bosses. I'd be like, I ain't giving them the fucking power to ruin my journey because they're assholes. They're getting wasted every night and doing whatever they're doing. They don't give a shit about me. So why should I let their horrible behavior affect what I want long term? And I really lent into that. Like, I really believed it. And I was like, I am not giving them the power. And that gave me like a little drive. Like, it was like a little game. Do you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, fuck you. It was my way of like sticking my fingers up at them when I was stuck in the job for a bit. So if you've got someone or something that's like a continuous factor, try and do that. Try and really get yourself into the nitty gritty and go, actually, do you know what? Fuck you. You're not taking this away from me. And I'm going to use your comments or your behavior or that thing to drive me to get to the point where I'm hopefully going to be able to turn around and go, I've got my confidence now. Now try and come and get me.
Yeah, that is amazing using that. But a lot of people do actually use that. Now that you've said it, I know a couple of people that, and even conversations that I've had with people, I'm like, do not give them the satisfaction, and it's exactly the same. Don't give people the satisfaction of you ruining your progress just for some stupid remark or whatever has been said that isn't going to affect them at all, but it's going to affect you long term. And, you know, like you say, in a few days or whatever, you've then got added problems. Deal with the stress there and then. But that's where like our brain is so wired into like our reptilian brain as to logical and illogical minds, and that kind of illogical mind comes in and, oh my god, I'm under threat, I have to run, and the first thing that you do to run is to eat to survive. But it's about tuning in and being like, no, switch on that logical brain, can deal with it, I'm okay, there is no threat to life, not some bear's gonna come and eat me, or whatever it is. I'm not a caveman anymore. I'm okay. But being so in tune with your body that you are able to have these responses and not always turn to food in high times of stress.
Thank you for listening. If you loved it, don't forget to press that subscribe button and the little bell so that you never miss a future episode. We will be back here with a new one on Sunday at 7 a.m. We'll see you then.